Hey guys, how you doing? Okay, so I'm going to start going over some of the first steps you need to deal with getting your Unreal Engine project up and running and set up correctly. Okay, this satisfies task one, project structure essentially, and understanding how you're going to utilize that and how you're going to set that up and work. So first off, you're going to need drive space. So I'm going to go down to my recording my drive here that I've got set up for doing this kind of demo work. You should already have class folders set up, some sort of more complex folder system with drives and spaces and set of drive spaces and whatnot so that you've got things organized into classes. I'm going to assume that's what you have already. So I'm just going to go and do what is it, 203? I can't remember what class we are right now for some reason. 20, let me see which one that is. We are, and I forget already which one it is. 203, yes, I'm correct. So it's ANM 203. And inside of ANM 203, I'm going to break this down. I do not, as I've stated so many times, and I'm going to have to keep stating it, I do not want any of your assets handed in that are not part of the Unreal Engine project. So we're going to create a folder called Working um, Assets. This is where your Max project, this is where your reference images will go. This is where, and you can break this down however you like. This is where your ZBrush files will reside, your substance files will reside, anything that is not the Unreal Engine project folder. So um, we're going to call this this is going to be our adventure game folder, and this is where we're going to have our project stored for Unreal Engine. This is the folder that you're going to hand into me. Okay, this is the one that's going to get zipped up and packaged and handed into me. You're going to see as we get into this. So let's start building now. Here's Epic Launcher. It should look something like this. If we go on down to the Unreal Engine link on the left-hand side, um, you can see you've got Launch Engine. And if you go along to your library, there we go. It took a while to load for some reason. We've got my engines that are currently installed. And of course, this is the one that we are working with, 4.25. You will not work with anything else, right? So with this one, we can launch. If you hit the drop down, you'll be able to update it if it needs an update. Okay, the 0.3 right now is what we're at. I'd make sure you have this one updated, keep it updated all the time, but do not go past 4.25. I think this is the last version of 4 that's going to be released anyways, because they've moved on to version 5 of the engine now, but we're going to stick with this. So I'm going to hit launch. It's going to bring you to this this screen, and in this screen we can pick out of a recent project if we want. You can pick categories and whatnot that you're going to be working with. Man, I just clicked on the wrong thing there. There we go. And we can also go in and say new project categories and whatnot. So if we double click on the new game project, that'll take us into a bunch of new game setups. Now I want you to start with a blank project. The reason for this is that we can migrate stuff into it as we need, but I want it to be as clean as possible. I don't want a bunch of garbage in there that's coming from any of these. It'll bloat the file and we may not need it. Okay, you can play around with these on your own time in your own projects. Just do not hand the stuff into me if I don't need it. Okay, so we're going to go with a blank project. We're going to hit next. Looks like they've actually changed this whole setup. No starter content should be selected. Okay, we don't want, again, junk in the file. We're going to make sure we remove as much of that junk as we possibly can out of it. Ray tracing disabled. We're not getting into that. Okay, maximum quality is fine. Blueprint's fine. So the folder here, we're going to go in and we're going to find that folder we just created. So I'm going to roll on down to my old 1 terabyte drive here and my ANM 203 and my adventure game, and I'm going to say select folder, and then we're going to create a project. Um, And that project needs to be named. We could just call it adventure game. In fact, this project, this folder here, just come to think of it, that one you could probably call your name correctly already for handing in, but this will work good for now. You're just going to have to change the names of the zip packages that you hand in to me, I think. You know what? I think we need to change that. Let me rethink this. I'm going to make this. I think we're going to call it our last name underscore first name adventure game. I think that's going to be a better option. And then adventure game for the name of the project inside it. Okay, so I think this folder needs to be named this way because that's what you're going to be packaging for me. This will make your life easier. Trust me on that one. Okay, so I kind of goofed earlier on there. Create project, and Unreal Engine launches for you. If we go take a look at that folder system now that we just created, Neale Paul Adventure Game. So yeah, there's a folder. Actually, I was incorrect. We could have named this folder. That's the folder that's going into. Doesn't matter. Slightly easier. You could have done it the first way as well. But I need an outside folder that's called last name underscore first name. So we're into one called Adventure Game now. But you can see there's this U project. That's basically the project description file. It works much like Maya or Max does. You'll notice there's project description files in the project folders. And then there's all the stuff that's going to be added. Content is where things are going to get added and whatnot to our game here. So this folder system right now, essentially this one here can be handed in, and we can zip that and it'll contain everything that is within that project. Okay, so that way is fine with me at this point. So once we're in here, Unreal Engine's kind of laid out pretty simple. We've got stuff we can add to the scene that's already built in. This is all kinds of stuff. There's gobs of things here. We'll get to it. Across the top, some of our tools we'll need. Across the bottom, this is content browser. You can think of this like a repository of all the content. Now, when new content is added to a game, it's actually imported into the project folder. So it isn't like, say, video editing, where your video that you're editing in Premiere or After Effects or something is an external resource. Or like 3ds Max, when you load a texture map, the texture map could be loaded, bad idea, but it could be loaded from your desktop. It will work. And you make the JPEG or the whatever file, and it's just referencing directly that file. With game engines, what it's actually doing when you merge in new content, it's actually rewriting the content and migrating it into the project for you. And it's rewriting it into a format the game engine needs to be as optimized as possible. So when you bring in an FBX file, maybe it's a model of something, rock, and it's an FBX file coming out of Max. When Unreal Engine brings that in, it actually rewrites the file into a U asset, okay, and it regenerates it and it leaves the FBX. You don't need the FBX anymore, okay? Or again, that FBX should be residing in your other folders. It should be in your working assets folder. That's where everything else gets put. Okay, so it's going to migrate it into it, and they're going to come up down here. I'll show you that in another video. In the middle, you've got your viewport, obviously. We got a world outliner that outlines everything that's currently in your scene, and you can see how nice and clean it is. Very little that's in here. Okay, let's leave this stuff for now. Okay, and it's there. Then you've got details. If you click on any one thing, you'll see that it gives you all the details and all the settings and stuff that can be handled for that item that you've currently got in the scene. Just like Max, Maya, whatever, you can click on items in the scene. And the hotkeys are sort of Maya-esque, a few things that drive me nuts, but if you Alt right left click, you've got orbit. If you've got Alt middle mouse, you've got Pan, which is backwards, which drives me up the wall. I'll show you how to turn that around. I don't know why it's backwards. And then Alt right mouse button is zoom in and out. You can also use basic gameplay hotkeys for a PC. If you hold down your middle mouse button, or sorry, your right mouse button, and use your WASD keys, okay, and what is it, Q and E for up and down. You can navigate with that way as well. Now, I kind of like using both. Sometimes when I'm doing things, it's easier and better for me to use the sort of the style that's in 3D applications, in your DCC applications. Your camera can be really quite quick at times. You're trying to do fine movements with the gameplay keys. So you can slow that down right up here in the corner. So if you take it down to a 3, it'll slow it down. It makes it a little easier, 2 or a 3 or something, to be able to not go jumping past it, right? Not playing a video game. You're trying to build one at this point. Let's see. So that's pretty much how to get your game up and running. Next video I'll do, we'll talk about how to start building out all of your content browser.